Good evening and thanks for joining us on the last night of 2020. You're watching News at 10 with me, Muhammad Amin Carlos. Yang di-Pertuan Agong Al-Sultan Abdullah Riayatuddin Al-Mustafa Billah Shah and Raja Permaisuri Agong Tunku Haja Aziza Amina Maimuna Skandaria have extended their Happy New Year 2021 wish to all Malaysians as they also pray for the country's recovery from COVID-19 virus. Now, in a media statement from Istana Negara today, the King and Queen also expressed gratefulness for the gift of peace and unity in Malaysia throughout this challenging year. Well, Al-Sultan Abdullah and Tunku Haja Aziza hope that the vaccines, which are expected to be available by early next year, will help to flatten the pandemic curve and break the virus chain of infection. Now, their Majesties also reminded the Rakyat to remain strong and resilient in facing the COVID-19 pandemic by adhering to the SOPs set by the government to ensure their safety and health. In addition, the King and Queen also took the opportunity to express their appreciation to the frontliners for their role in the battle against the deadly virus since early this year. Well, in the same statement, Al-Sultan Abdullah and Tunku Haja Aziza also advised politicians to slow down with their political ploy and to focus more on revitalizing the country's economy for the sake of the Rakyat who are heavily affected by the COVID-19 outbreak. Well, the King and Queen also called the Rakyat to pray for the country's prosperity and protection from any form of threats. Well, the last day of 2020 saw Malaysia recording the highest number of daily cases since the pandemic began in the country in January. Well, with 2,525 new cases reported, the COVID-19 tally now stands at 113,010, out of which 23,598 are active cases. Well, in a statement, Health Director General Tan Sri Dr. Noor Hisham Abdullah said 13 of the new infections were imported cases, while the rest were local transmissions. Well, he said there are currently 131 patients being treated at the ICU and 60 of them requiring ventilator support. Well, the Health DG also said that there were a total of 88,941 recoveries made, as another 1,481 patients fully recovered and discharged from hospitals as at noon today. Well, it said the country's death toll now stands at 471 after 8 new fatalities were reported in the last 24 hours. And the Health Ministry also identified 5 new clusters involving Selangor, Kuala Lumpur, Putrajaya, Johor and Negeri Sembilan. Well, this latest development brings the total number of clusters to 511, with 225 of them being active. Well, all Malaysians are urged to stay united and cooperate with the Health Ministry in order for the country to effectively battle against COVID-19, which is not over yet. Now, Health Director General Tan Sri Dr. Noor Hisham Abdullah said the ministry would continue its efforts in containing the virus transmission, adding that the public health facilities have so far been able to take on the pandemic.
Perjalanan kita masih belum tamat dan peperangan kita semakin sengit, dan kita hendaklah bersatu dan kesepaduan kita yang akan membezakan sama ada kita dapat menangani COVID-19 ini dengan baik. Jadi usaha kita ialah untuk membendung penularan COVID-19 dalam negara kita, dan setakat ini alhamdulillah kita masih boleh bertahan, tetapi kita masih belum menang lagi.
He was speaking at the launch of a coffee book titled The Fight Against Uncertainty, Hospital Services Journey in Combating COVID-19, which he said is a meaningful publication as it recounts the journey of the frontliners in fighting the disease over the year. Well, he said the 158-page book is a compilation of articles and photographs on the battle against the pandemic thus far, as they would be distributed to the Health Ministry, state health directors, as well as other ministries and agencies, universities and the Association of Private Hospitals of Malaysia. The government will conduct a thorough investigation into the activities of a meat cartel which had reportedly smuggled non-certified meat into the country and selling them as halal products. Minister in the Prime Minister's Department, Dato' Taqiyuddin Hassan, said the issue is currently being investigated by the relevant agencies, including the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission, the MACC, as well as the Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs Ministry, KPD and HEP.
siasatan dibuat berdasarkan perundangan. Jadi siasatan itu menjurus ke arah adakah keperluan-keperluan perundangan, requirement of law itu dipatuhi. Kalau sekiranya ada pelanggaran peruntukan undang-undang, tindakan akan diambil berdasarkan undang-undang itu lah.
Speaking after handing over donation checks to Kedah non-governmental organizations and charity associations, he said the official announcement on the outcome of the investigation will be made by the relevant ministers. Previously, it was reported that a meat cartel, which has been in operations for more than 40 years, has been bribing senior government officers to bring non-certified meat into Malaysia and passing it off as halal-certified products. Well, meanwhile, a frozen meat importing company believed to be behind an illegal meat cartel will be charged in court soon. As Deputy Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs Minister Dato' Rosol Wahid said the investigation paper on the company located in Johor Bahru was almost complete, as the ministry had obtained the meat analysis results from the chemistry department on Monday. Well, commenting further, Dato' Rosol said the company was believed to have repackaged imported meat by imitating the logos of Malaysia's leading frozen meat distributors, as well as placing an uncertified halal logo of Jakim on them. Dato' Rosol added that the seized meat must be sent to the laboratory, to be checked whether it is indeed kangaroo meat, horse meat, pork, or any other meat before bringing the perpetrator to the court. He then assured the public not to worry regarding the matter, as based on information provided by the Department of Malaysian Quarantine and Inspection Services, or MAKIS, the company's distribution market share in the country was less than 1%. Well, the ongoing proceedings of high-profile court cases continue to steal the public's attention, especially those involving the country's politicians. Well, the trials include the corruption case involving the Sarawak Solar Hybrid Project, the misappropriation of funds belonging to Yayasan Akal Budi, as well as the corruption case involving the Pulau Pinang Undersea Tunnel Project. The corruption case relating to the Sarawak Solar Hybrid Project involved Datin Sri Rosma Mansor, with a total of 23 prosecution witnesses called to testify. The court set 10 February next year to hear the oral submissions before deciding whether to acquit or order Datin Sri Rosma to enter her defense. She was accused of soliciting 187.5 million ringgit and charged with 2 other counts of receiving bribes totaling 6.5 million ringgit from a former managing director of a company in return for securing a contract for the project. Meanwhile, the corruption case of Dato' Sri Dr. Ahmad Zahid Hamidi, which started on 18th November last year, has entered its final phase of prosecution. The former Deputy Prime Minister is facing 47 charges involving millions of ringgit of charity foundation Yayasan Akal Budi funds. He allegedly misused the funds for his personal benefits, including to make personal credit card payments and buy several insurance policies for his private vehicles. 89 prosecution witnesses have already testified, with another 7 expected to be called. On 7th August, former Pulau Pinang Chief Minister Lim Guan Eng was brought to court for soliciting a bribe of 3.3 million ringgit from a company which was awarded the contract to undertake the undersea tunnel project. Furthermore, he was also charged with 2 counts of dishonestly misappropriating property by releasing 2 plots of government land worth more than 208 million ringgit to 2 different companies. There were at least 9 cases of raw water pollution in Selangor this year, which caused a total of 8 water supply disruptions. One of the pollution incidents that received a lot of attention was the contamination of Sungai Gong Rawang after hazardous waste substances were released into the river. 4 company directors were brought to court in connection with the case, and they were charged under Section 430 of the Penal Code. They face imprisonment of up to 30 years or fine, or both if found guilty. Well, the year 2020 saw a positive turning point in the country's Islamic administration after a mufti was appointed into the cabinet. Well, this move has helped the religious sector to display a professional service, especially with the involvement of all relevant agencies led by Dato' Dr. Zulkifli Muhammad Al-Bakri as the Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Religious Affairs. His appointment, Dato' Dr. Zulkifli was entrusted with a very challenging task as the country at the time was in a fierce battle against COVID-19. The Islamic administration had become the center of attention as it plays a crucial role in distributing the necessary aid and zakat money to those who were badly affected by the pandemic.
Seawal lagi kita telah merangka satu tindakan bersama di mana antaranya JAKIM memainkan peranan apabila kita menubuhkan musaadah COVID-19 disambut oleh PPZ MAWIB melalui musaadah Khairah PPZ juga beberapa agensi-agensi yang lain. Saat yang sama juga kita telah memberi satu peruntukan khas di mana MAWIB melalui Baitul Mal telah membelanjakan sehingga setakat ni lebih daripada 630 juta telah dibelanjakan untuk asnaf, untuk fakir miskin.
This year also saw a change in the social system and daily routines as they are now subjected to the SOPs set to curb the COVID-19. This includes the religious activities as well as weddings, as the government has set detailed regulations pertaining to how they should be conducted.
Pertama sekali, kita menginsafi bila isu terkait dengan agama, maka saya tidaklah hendak bertindak secara peribadi dan melulu keseorangan. Pertama sekali dalam sejarah kita ini rekod Majlis Muzakarah Fatwa Kebangsaan yang dipanggil sebagai MKI. Kita adakan sebanyak 11 kali. Tak pernah berlaku dalam sejarah setahun berlaku sebanyak itu. Antaranya terkait dengan isu-isu berkenaan dengan ibadat, solat, haji, masjid, nikah kahwin dan seumpamanya.
Despite the many challenges created by the pandemic, the country's Islamic Religious Affairs Division remains committed in providing assistance to the people and guiding them towards excellence in the future.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera. Apa khabar semua? Saya doakan agar saudara dan saudari berada dalam keadaan sihat walafiat di mana jua anda berada. Saya ingin memanjatkan rasa setinggi-tinggi kesyukuran kehadrat Allah Subhanahu wa taala kerana kita diberikan kesempatan untuk bersama-sama melangkah ke gerbang tahun baru 2021. Saban tahun kita menyambut tahun baru dengan melakukan muhasabah untuk menilai kejayaan yang telah dicapai maupun rintangan yang ditempuh. Saudara dan saudari rakyat Malaysia yang saya kasihi sekalian, kita diuji dengan cabaran yang cukup besar dan getir sepanjang tahun 2020, iaitu pandemik COVID-19 yang mula dilaporkan di Malaysia pada bulan Januari. Cabaran ini bukan saja menguji kekuatan kita secara individu, tetapi daya ketahanan kita sebagai sebuah negara dan masyarakat yang berbilang kaum dan latar budaya. Syukur Alhamdulillah, dalam berdepan dengan cabaran COVID-19, kita semua rakyat Malaysia telah bangkit bersama menentang kemarahan penularan wabak ini dengan satu keazaman dan semangat kesepaduan yang amat luar biasa. Walaupun pelbagai dugaan datang melanda sepanjang tahun 2020, rakyat Malaysia tetap menunjukkan sikap positif dan daya ketahanan yang cukup kental dan amat membanggakan. Terima kasih rakyat Malaysia. Saudara dan saudari yang saya kasihi sekalian, hari ini kes jangkitan baru COVID-19 dalam negara telah mencatatkan angka tertinggi apabila merekodkan 2,525 kes baru. Kerajaan telah memberikan banyak kelonggaran kepada rakyat, namun dengan syarat perlu mematuhi semua SOP yang telah ditetapkan. Saya menyeru saudara dan saudari semua untuk terus mematuhi SOP yang telah ditetapkan di samping mengamalkan budaya norma baru seperti mencuci tangan menggunakan sabun, menggunakan hand sanitizer, memakai pelitup muka dengan betul, menjaga jarak fizikal dan elakkan daripada bersentuhan ketika melakukan aktiviti harian seperti pergi bekerja, beriadah dan keluar makan bersama keluarga serta bersukan bersama rakan-rakan. Kita semua adalah frontliners dan kawalan kendiri dalam pematuhan SOP serta pembudayaan norma baru dalam kehidupan kita mampu melindungi diri dan keluarga dari jangkitan COVID-19 ini. Kita tidak boleh leka kerana kelonggaran ini bukan bermaksud peperangan melawan COVID-19 sudah berjaya sepenuhnya. Ketua Saintis Pertubuhan Kesihatan Sedunia WHO mengunjurkan tempoh masa selama 4 hingga 5 tahun diperlukan dalam usaha dunia mengawal COVID-19 dengan efektif. Dari segi ekonomi, IMF, World Economic Outlook 2021 pula mengunjurkan pertumbuhan ekonomi global pada tahun 2021 adalah sekitar 5.4%. Bank Dunia dan Bank Negara Malaysia juga mengunjurkan ekonomi Malaysia akan berkembang antara 6.5 hingga 7.5%. Apa yang pasti, unjuran optimistik ini menunjukkan bahawa ada sinar yang lebih cerah menanti kita semua pada tahun 2021. Dengan unjuran-unjuran positif ini, kerajaan akan mengembeling usaha untuk memulihkan situasi di Malaysia sebaik dan secepat mungkin. Justru saya ingin menggariskan 5 keutamaan kerajaan pada tahun 2021 dalam satu strategi bersepadu pemulihan negara pasca COVID-19. Pertama, mempertingkatkan tahap kesihatan awam melalui perolehan bekalan vaksin COVID-19 dan melancarkan program vaksinasi di seluruh negara. Kedua, memperkokoh ekonomi prihatin rakyat dan memacu pertumbuhan ekonomi negara pasca COVID-19 melalui pelaksanaan Belanjawan 2021 dan rancangan Malaysia ke-12 RMK-12. Ketiga, memastikan kestabilan politik dan kerajaan termasuklah tadbir urus yang baik sebagai asas kepada pemulihan ekonomi yang mampan. Keempat, menjamin kedaulatan negara terpelihara dan kedudukan Malaysia di pesada antarabangsa diperhebat. Dan kelima, memperkokoh hubungan antara kaum dan agama dalam membentuk masyarakat yang bersatu padu menentang sebarang ancaman. Kerajaan Malaysia akan memastikan bekalan vaksin yang berkesan, selamat dan mencukupi untuk sekurang-kurangnya 80% rakyat di negara ini. Vaksin ini juga akan diberi secara percuma kepada rakyat Malaysia. Pelan imunisasi COVID-19 kebangsaan ini akan dilaksanakan oleh KKM melalui 3 fasa bermula seawal Februari 2021. Saya bersama petugas-petugas Barisan Hadapan akan menjadi antara orang yang terawal untuk menerima suntikan vaksin ini bagi membuktikan vaksin ini selamat dan berkesan. InsyaAllah, kumpulan berisiko tinggi seperti warga emas dan pesakit-pesakit yang mengidap penyakit tidak berjangkit NCD seperti penyakit jantung, diabetes dan penyakit pernafasan kronik juga akan diberikan keutamaan dalam menerima suntikan vaksin ini. Pemantauan keberkesanan dan keselamatan tetap akan diteruskan oleh bahagian regulatori farmasi negara. Namun begitu, saya ingin mengingatkan bahawa program vaksinasi ini hanyalah satu langkah pencegahan dan SOP yang ditetapkan masih perlu dipatuhi pada setiap masa. Saya berdoa kehadrat Allah Subhanahu wa taala agar tahun 2021 akan membuka lembaran baru untuk rakyat terus bersatu padu, memulihkan semula negara dalam semua aspek, khususnya dari segi kesihatan awam, sosioekonomi, perpaduan kaum dan integrasi nasional. Marilah kita galas tanggungjawab ini sebaik mungkin supaya diri kita, keluarga kita, masyarakat kita dan negara kita sentiasa terpelihara. Let us all strive to be better versions of ourselves in the new year to achieve more for Malaysia. Akhir kata, saya berdoa kehadrat Allah Subhanahu wa taala semoga kita sentiasa diberkati dan dipermudah segala urusan. Marilah kita bersama-sama melangkah ke tahun baru 2021 dengan lebih gagah, yakin dan berani bahawa tahun yang baru ini akan lebih baik daripada tahun-tahun sebelumnya, insya-Allah. Bersama-sama kita bawa semangat baru ini ke tahun 2021. Selamat tahun baru 2021. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Death toll from Yemen's airport blasts continue to rise. That and more coming up. Well, at least 26 people were killed when explosions rocked Yemen's Aden airport moments after a new unity government flew in what some officials charged was a cowardly attack by Iran-backed Houthi rebels. Well, although all government ministers were reported to be unharmed in Wednesday's attack, more than 50 people were wounded, with the casualty toll feared likely to rise. The International Committee of the Red Cross said one of its employees was among those confirmed dead, with another 3 wounded. Well, as smoke billowed out of the airport terminal from an initial blast with debris strewn across the area and people rushing to tend to the wounded, a second explosion took place. Video footage shot by AFP shows what appears to be a missile striking the airport apron, which moments before had been packed with crowds and exploding into a ball of intense flames. Well, tens of thousands, mostly civilians, have been killed and millions displaced in Yemen's grinding 5-year war, which has triggered what the United Nations has called the world's worst humanitarian disaster. Well, Britain's destiny now resides firmly in its hands. Prime Minister Boris Johnson said today as the hours tick down on nearly half a century of often turbulent ties with its European neighbours. The UK's tortuous departure from the European Union takes full effect when Big Ben strikes 11 p.m. local time in central London, just as most of the European mainland ushers in 2021 at midnight. Brexit has dominated British politics since the country's narrow vote to leave the bloc in June 2016, opening deep political and social wounds which remain raw. Legally, Brisbane left on 31st January but has been in a standstill transition period during fractious talks to secure a free trade agreement with Brussels, which was finally clinched on Christmas Eve. Once the transition ends, EU rules will no longer apply, with the immediate consequence being an end to the free movement of more than 500 million people between Britain and the 27 EU states. Customs border checks will be back for the first time in decades, and despite the free trade deal, queues and disruption from additional paperwork are expected. Coming up in sports, good news for Kelantan FC as FIFA lifts player transfer ban. Well, the national player of Namibia, Petrus Chitembe, is determined to ensure his stint with Terengganu FC or TFC would assist the Turtles in their hunt for success in Malaysia League, the M-League and the Asian Football Confederation or AFC Cup 2021. The 28-year-old player, who was earlier playing for Sabah, said TFC, who ended third in Super League this season with a berth in the AFC Cup 2021, would be the right platform for him to challenge himself. Petrus, who is still holding the post of captain of Namibia, would harness his experience from 65 matches since 2010, apart from playing for 9 clubs, including the Tambadao. The Namibian is yearning to be in action with TFC and feels the squad has a good balance of young and senior players. Petrus said TFC has very talented young players in good positions, adding that it also has a good blend of young players, and those with experience can be a good guide to the young ones. The Kelantan Football Club, or Kelantan FC, can now breathe a sigh of relief after the World Footballing Body, FIFA, lifted the player transfer ban it imposed on the team previously. So, Kelantan FC owner Norizam Tukiman said he received word of the development from FIFA yesterday. Norizam said his 4-month struggle since taking over the club on 3rd September is finally over as the club managed to settle the unpaid salary issue. Quote, I would like to thank Casio Francesco de Jesus' lawyer, Zafri Aminul Rashid, who has been a great help in this matter and allowed us to settle all payments with the Brazilian player, unquote, said when contacted today. The lifting of the transfer ban was made when the club settled Casio Francesco de Jesus' unpaid salary, totaling over 612,000 ringgit in 4 payments. He said the decision would allow Kelantan FC to focus on building up its team for the 2021 season, as the new coaching team is expected to arrive soon to begin their work. He added that he would do his best, including securing the best local and foreign players to strengthen the team to ensure that Kelantan FC could compete in the Malaysia League this upcoming season. According to Norizam, he has spent almost 8 million ringgit to take over the club last September. The total includes settling unpaid debts and salaries of the club's players for the 2020 season. That concludes this evening's News at 10. Well, folks, in our top story, Malaysia ends 2020 with new record high of daily COVID-19 cases. Well, before we go, we would like to thank all our viewers, all Malaysians, a very happy and prosperous New Year. Join us again at 12:30 tomorrow afternoon on TV2. I'm Muhammad Amin Carlos. Stay tuned to Saluran Berita RTM and have a pleasant evening. Happy New Year 2021.